Okay, periodic functions, unit 10, day 1. So, yeah, we'll just get into this. So some functions, like sine and cosine, repeat forever. So they just oscillate forever in positive and negative directions. And these are called periodic functions. Okay, so the period goes from one peak to the next, or from any point to that same matching point to like where it starts repeating again. So if we look at this right here, we can pick any point. So they picked right here. This goes down and back up, and then that's going to repeat right there. Okay, you could also pick this point. You go up and then down and back up. That's one period because then it starts repeating again right there. And then it's going to repeat again and then again and again. Okay? Now, one second. The amplitude is the height from the midline to the peak or to the trough. I think that's how you say that. That's the low point. So it's either the peak or the valley. And we can measure this. So you can either measure from the midline to the highest point and that's it, or you can take the highest point and the lowest point and then divide that by 2. Okay? The horizontal shift is how far the function is horizontally to the right of the usual position, to the right or left. And the vertical shift is how far up or down it is. That should be up or down, and that should be right or left. Okay? So let's identify the midline, the period, the amplitude, and the y-intercept. So the period first. I always start at 0 because it's easy to tell where we're ending. So I'm just going to pick 0 right there. I'm going to go up and down and back up till I get to 2 pi right there. Because then that's going to start repeating because I'm going up again. Okay? Because I know if you go up right here, so we go up. What is happening? So we go up. Right there, that's technically the same point, but if I keep going along this graph, it goes down and then back up. So that is 1 period. Okay, and then that ending point, the distance between this point and the end point is 2 pi. So that distance right there is 2 pi. My period is 2 pi. Okay. Now the midline is halfway between the highest point and the lowest point. The highest point is there. The lowest point is there. Halfway between 4 and negative 4 is 0. So my midline is y equals 0. Now my amplitude is the distance from the midline to the high point or the distance from the midline to the low point. So if I go from that midline, I'm going to go up 4. My amplitude is 4. You could also go down 4. I'll go back. You go down 4 to hit that low point, and that distance is 4. Amplitude is always positive. Always positive. Now, last thing, y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. Well, that crosses the y-axis right there, so that's at 0, 0. Cool? Okay, let's do this one. So again, we're going to identify the midline, the period, the amplitude, and the y-intercept. Maybe. So always start at wherever the point is at 0. So we're going to start at that point right there. I'm going to go along this graph, and I don't repeat myself till I get to pi. So my period is pi. Okay, the midline, halfway between the high point and the low point. Well, my high point is 1, my low point is negative 1. Halfway between there is 0. So that midline is y equals 0. Okay? And then the amplitude is the distance from the midline to the high point or from the midline to the low point. So that amplitude is 1. Because I went up 1, my high point is 1. Then my y-intercept, it crosses right there at 0, 1. Okay? Now, finding amplitude and period algebraically, these should all have, I messed up on this, these should all have x's connected to these. So make sure you write an x connected to that. Okay, that's going to go away because, yeah, anyways. So we have y equals a sine of bx or y equals a cosine of bx. And the amplitude is your a. The period is 2 pi divided by your b. Okay? Oh, I know what I did. I don't want those to be x's. Shoot. I want this. Dang it, what am I doing? The pies are x's. So this pi is an x. So this is the same thing as y equals 3 sine of 2x. 3 sine of 2x, okay? I put pi's where there should have been x's. That pi is an x, okay? So my a is 3, my b is 2. So my amplitude is my a value, which is 3. So the amplitude is 3. And then the period is 2 pi divided by the b value, which the b value is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so those cancel. And we're just left with pi. So the period is pi. Okay? Let me just get through these ones. Okay, so y equals 2 cosine, that should be x over 5. I'm just really struggling. So y equals 2 cosine of x over 5. I didn't mean to put pi in there. That is the same thing as y equals 2 cosine of 1/5 x. Okay, so my a value is always right in front of cosine or right in front of sine. So my a is 2. My b value is 1/5. Okay, so my amplitude is my a value, which is 2. My period is 2 pi divided by b. Well, b is 1/5, so that's 2 pi divided by 1/5. If you divide by a fraction, that's the same thing as flipping that second fraction and multiplying. So we're dividing 2 pi divided by 1/5. That's the same thing as 2 pi times 5 over 1. You can put this over 1. 2 pi times 5 is 10 pi. 1 times 1 is 1. So 10 pi over 1, which is 10 pi. So my period is 10 pi. My amplitude is 2. Okay? Exit out of this one. Sorry, guys. I don't know why. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, keep going. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So y equals 1/3 cosine of pi. Pi is x, so that should be y equals 1/3 cosine of x. So that's the same thing as y equals 1/3 cosine of 1x. That should be x, not pi. Please change that to an x. So my a is 1/3, my b is 1. So my amplitude is 1/3. My period is 2 pi divided by 1, which is 2 pi. Okay. And then this last one, y equals sine, that should be x again, x over 2. That's the same thing as y equals 1 sine of 1/2 x. That should be x, not pi. That should be x. Okay. So my a is 1, my b is 1/2. So my amplitude is 1. My period is 2 pi divided by 1/2, because it's 2 pi divided by b. That's the same thing as 2 pi. We can just rewrite that so it looks a little nicer. When you divide by a fraction, you can flip that second fraction and multiply. So that's 2 pi times 2 over 1, which is the same thing as 2 pi times 2, which is 4 pi. So the period is 4 pi, the amplitude is 1. Okay, remember to take the quiz, and I will see you guys tomorrow.